In this module, we'll build on the previous modules to begin with an introduction to Sparkle, so querying with or without a URI using DBpedia. First off, Sparkle is an RDF query language that allows searching against a URI or dataset by taking advantage of the triple structure. So we don't necessarily need a URI to begin exploring Sparkle endpoints or essentially a Sparkle way to access data sets, but they do help in some cases. It also helps to understand the data model for the particular data set in order to build the queries, and some of the examples that we'll use here today will help to do that sort of thing. And I can't say this enough times, but Sparkle shares many of Turtle's conventions, and you'll begin to recognize them in some of the query examples. A little bit more background on what you'll see here in this Sparkle module. In this section, we'll mostly focus on data sets that have GUIs or graphical interfaces to Sparkle endpoints. Data providers aren't necessarily required to provide Sparkle endpoints. Endpoints are notoriously fragile with uneven levels of support. As with curl, we're only going to scratch the surface with Sparkle. We'll focus on types of queries that help to evaluate data sets for possible use. So as a metadata practitioner, you may be interested in evaluating a data set to see if it would support particular use cases that you want to develop in an application. This module and the following one are not enough for you to really get what you want out of Sparkle. I highly recommend Rob Chavez's Library Juice Academy Sparkle series, which would allow you to store locally and manipulate RDF data using a tool called Arc. So let's begin with the main structures of a Sparkle query. The colors in the slide are just to help refer to different sections of the query. In the blue area, we see select, distinct, construct, ask, describe. This section is where we define the type of query and the result we're looking for, or the type of result we're looking for. So we want to select something, we want to select distinct things, we may want to construct an output based on matches, ask a yes no question, or describe a particular set of entities or a particular entity. The orange section here we're going to skip, and that's really because the Sparkle endpoints that we're using and the graphical interfaces that we're using are connected to particular data sets, so they've already made a determination which data set we are going to run this query against. The green section is the query pattern section, where we define what the matching criteria is. The subject, predicate, and objects that begin with a question mark here are variables. So this is where you can define unknown values in the triple pattern. And so you develop this triple pattern, you say where these conditions apply, select, construct, etc., the values that where those conditions apply. And then lastly, the red area allows you to organize and limit the results of that query. So here we have an example of a Sparkle query where the select says, list things that meet the class variable conditions. And we define those class variable conditions by saying that it is the entity in the object position linked to from RDF type. So remember, from the Turtle module, the lowercase a is shorthand for RDF type. So anything in the object position after RDF type would be a class. So we're just saying select a bunch of classes and limit them to 30. So pause the video and go to the DBpedia Sparkle endpoint. The URL is there in the slide, and try this query out. And it'll look like this. So here's the UI for the DBpedia Sparkle endpoint. And so you add the data here in the box, and then you can click Run Query. And you should get results with a list of classes. You may have noticed that there are repeated classes in your results for that last query. Pause the video again and try adding distinct after select. So add this bit here after select, and what that will do is when you run the query, it'll remove any duplicate classes from your list. You'll get 50 unique classes. So now that we have classes and we found a list of classes, we can grab one of those classes, so the class actor, and then try to find examples of actors. So now we've made the variable things that are of the type actor, and we've changed this here to match the subject position of our query with a limit of 50. So again, if you pause, you can run this query in this DBpedia SPARQL endpoint, you will get a list of 50 unique actors. And from here, now that we have known URIs for particular examples of actors, we can use the describe feature in SPARQL and bring back a description of, in this case, Mahershala Ali, similar to our curl example in the curl module. You'll notice that there's some parallels here between describe in SPARQL and curl requests for descriptions of a particular entity.